computer, yes.
Oh, this is on loud. I see.
And then
Louder.
So, welcome everybody. I'm really excited about tonight's session. We are going to be discussing two major pieces of poetry, poems that are not only excelling in their own right, but also they are put to music in extraordinary ways. I want to introduce to you very quickly our contributor for this evening, Gidon Amir, who was born in Holland to Holocaust survivors who went to Israel in 1947. He grew up in Yerushalayim and received a bachelor's degree in mathematics from Hebrew University in Jerusalem and a master's degree in computer science from the Weizmann Institute of Science in Rehovot. While he worked for different organizations, first as a computer engineer and then as a manager, he also continuously taught computer science topics at various institutions. In May 2001, he received a master's degree with honors at Baltimore Hebrew University and completed further studies. He redirected his passion for teaching from computer science to the teaching of Jewish and Bible subjects at various adult education programs like the Haverman Institute for Jewish Studies and Osher, Johns Hopkins University. He also teaches in synagogues, churches, and other organizations. And without further ado, it is my honor to invite Gidon Amir to teach us this evening.
Thank you, Ramon. I couldn't say it better myself. Good evening, everybody. I'm glad to see so many familiar faces, and I hope that it will be an interesting evening for us. So I find it quite amazing how many different people that I talk to, how they relate to Yom Kippur. And it seems that almost everybody that I talk to, no matter for which denomination you belong or whether you are a secular Jew or whatever, Yom Kippur has some meaning for you. And the juxtaposition between us all getting together in the synagogue and spending the day in the synagogue and talking as a community, and every confession that we make is in a plural. Yes, we sinned, we transgressed, with this, with that. It's all we. While at the end, it is a very personal day, and every person is actually busy. Oops, hold on 1 second. Yes, is actually very busy with himself or herself. So it's almost as if we have a community of people all engaged in something extremely personal at the same time. So I think that in some ways the poems that we will look at today will reflect that idea of personal interpretation. Of personal interpretation, you have a poem, and then there are so many different ways how you can interpret these poems. So we start with the poem Selihot. Selihot, which really means in Hebrew, forgiveness says. I don't know if you can say it like this in English. Yes, but it's a plural of forgiveness. Yes, that's really the meaning of the word Selihot. That was written by Lehrer Goldberg, who lived from 1911 to 1970. She is a major Israeli poet, not only poet, also playwright, and also an author. She also wrote children's books, and she also did some amazing translations. She achieved many accolades and prizes, including the Israel Prize. That's the highest prize that Israel can give for literature. Now, the poem Selihot was published in 1938. It was discovered later on that it is actually much longer than what you will read and what you will see today, about 4 times longer. So there are many more stanzas to this poem than what we will see and hear today. Unfortunately, I could not find an English translation for the whole poem, just for the part that we are going to hear and that we are going to also to hear being sung. So why don't we start by reading the poem? I don't know, Ramon, if we can see it on the screen. If not, Fran is going to read it.
Of course. Just a second. Give me a chance to share the screen. And there it is.
Okay. Want me to read?
Yes.
You came to me to open my eyes. To me, your body was a view, a window and a mirror. You came as night comes to the owl, to show him in the darkness all things. And I learned there's a name for each eyelash and fingernail, and for every hair on the exposed flesh. And the scent of childhood, the scent of paste and pine, is the night aroma of the body. If there were torments, they sailed towards you, my white sail into your darkness. Allow me to go, oh, allow me to go, and kneel on the shore of forgiveness. And I learned there's a name for each eyelash and fingernail, and for every hair on the exposed flesh. And the scent of childhood, the scent of paste and pine, is the night aroma of the body.
Okay, thank you very much. I asked in particular that the poems, that you will get the poems also attached to the invitation, so those of you who had time could read it in advance. In any case, what I find so amazing, we don't really have time to discuss the poem itself, although it is quite a beautiful poem. But what for me is amazing is that major Israeli scholars, literary scholars, who analyzed the poem came to completely different conclusions. So one critic explains that 6 years earlier, yes, as I said, the poem was written in 1938. 6 years earlier than that, in 1932, Leah Goldberg was doing her PhD in Bonn, in Germany, and at that time, she met a person from India, and they had a love relationship during the time that she was there. Unfortunately, eventually, she decided to go to Israel with her mother, and the Indian had to go back to India. So their ways separated, and maybe they communicated for a short time, but afterwards they lost touch. And one critic says, "Oh, this is she's asking him for forgiveness for her decision to go to Israel and not to stay with him." That's what the poem is all about. Now, Leah Goldberg never married. She lived with her mother in the city of Tel Aviv until she passed away, and but apparently she had not a love that would never flourished. There was an artist by the name of Ariana Von, who did a lot of the paintings and the pictures in her children's books. And apparently she was quite enamored with him, but I don't think that he returned, that he wanted to have the relationship on that level. So the other critic says, no. She is writing, this is about her relationship with Ariana Von, okay? But then it is amazing. While if you read the poem, yes, I gave a name, or I learned the name of every nail and every eyelash. Yes, there is a lot of physicality in the poem. Nevertheless, there is another totally different view by another critic. It turns out that when Leah Goldberg was a kid in Lithuania, some Lithuanian nationalists grabbed her father and tortured him for a week or 2 weeks. And in particularly, they tormented him by pretending to execute him on a daily basis. As a result, when he was released eventually, he was a total wreck and he became mentally ill. And he had to be put in a mental institute in which he stayed for the rest of his life until he passed away eventually in that mental institute during the Holocaust, but he passed away in the mental institute while Leah Goldberg and her mother went to Israel. And according to this critic, we are not talking here about physical love. We are talking about the fact that her father's departure all of a sudden was an extremely traumatic experience for her. And she was very angry at her father for leaving her. We know that this is something that sometimes happens if a parent dies, for example, when children are very young. Sometimes the children resent the dead parent. How dare that parent, how did he dare or did she dare to leave me? Yes, and that according to this particular critic, Leah Goldberg all her life felt guilty when she became an adult about this kind of resentment that she felt towards her father, who was totally not guilty about the poor guy, about what happened to him. So the Selihot, yes, the forgiveness, the asking for forgiveness is to her father. I am not going to judge which one of the three possibilities is the correct one. And of course, what happens when we read a poem like this, we don't have to know anything about the poet. Yes, the poem can speak to us and bring all sorts of associations for us based on our life and our life experience, which has nothing to do with what happened to Leah Goldberg, and that's what happened with good poetry. So each one of you can have your own understanding of this poem and your own sense of this poem. So I think that it will be a good idea now to listen to the poem being sung by Yehudit Ravitz. She's an Israeli singer. What is so nice about this particular song is Yehudit Ravitz was really an unknown singer. She was in a military group during her military service, but she was really not known. And then she sang this song in a festival. Although the song got only the 7th place, actually that's what launched her career. And this became the most important song of her life, because from this she became known and famous. So let's hear Yehudit Ravitz singing the Selihot.
So you're gonna have to forgive me for a little bit, because since this is free, that means
we love the pictures.
You love the pictures, as Skip adds.
בשר החשוף וריח ילדות, ריח דבק ואורן וניחוח ללא של הגוף, של הגוף. אם היו עינויים הם הפליגו עליך, מפרשי הלבן אל האופל שלך.
Okay, you can those of you, some of you got the file from me with the links for different ways that this song is being sung. If not, you can Google it, and it's very easy to find. And there are many different performances, including one that she does with the Israeli Philharmonics. So you can hear the whole poem there. I think that she definitely is the best person to actually perform this song, as well as the second poem that we are going to talk about. So the second poem is the poem Vidui. Vidui means confession. Yes, that was written by the Israeli poet Alexander Penn. Alexander Penn lived from 1906 to 1972. He had a very convoluted life, and it's much too complex to tell you all about his life tonight. Yes, I simply don't have the time, but you may find it interesting that although he is one of the great Israeli poets, he actually made his living as a boxer and as a training other boxers. Yes, that's how he made his living. He was a true bohemian, a womanizer, an alcoholic, all sorts of other things. Yes, all sorts of other things. Now, in 1941, he gave this poem as a birthday present to his second wife, Rachel, but the poem was actually published only in 1970, 2 years before he passed away. He passed away eventually from complication of diabetes and stuff like that, and other diseases. So the poem was dormant for a very long time, but it was a present for his wife. It's quite a long and quite complicated complicated poem. But we will hear only about 2/3 of it. That these 2/3 are also part what is being sung when you will hear afterwards the recording. The third part of the poem is not part of being sung because it's too dark and too heartbreaking. So we will hear just the first 2/3. But of course, I recommend that you all read the whole poem. Unfortunately, it was not in the file that you got. So anyone who wants to have a translation of the whole poem, just send me an email and I will send you the whole poem. I must just say before we read it, that I could not find a translation to English from this poem. So the translation that you hear is a crude translation that I made of the poem, with a little bit of help from Elaine in some language issues. But so whatever you find beautiful in the poem, that's from Alexander Penn. Whatever doesn't sound right, it must be my translation. Okay, so let's hear. Ryan, please, can we hear the poem?
Sure. My plain coat and a light on the bridge. A fall evening and my lips are damp from the rain. That's how you saw me first, remember? Since I knew for sure, as 2 + 2, that I will be for you like bread and water. And like to water and bread, you will return to me. In our bitter poverty, when rage consumed you, you cursed me to death more than once, and my cold shoulders shivered from joy, since I knew for sure, as 2 + 2, in chains you will be taken because of me, and even then my heart won't leave you. Yes, it was not good. It was wonderfully bad. But remember how we met on that night of nights? If it happens again, let it not be different. Only this love, poor and rebellious, in the same coat with the same rose pattern, in the same plain dress of all dresses. If it happens again, let it not be different. Let it be so. It will be sign after sign. I was jealous of you, and I spied in the darkness, and I hated you, but with tears I loved you. Our house was devoid of smiles and laughter, and when you came home, bitter as a dog, you revenged upon me the humiliation by strangers. Then I knew you thought of me from afar. And that night when you slammed the door and you left forever, and I was carrying a child, darkness fell upon my eyes, but my heart did not break, since I knew for sure, as 2 + 2, that you would come back to me and fall on your knees, and I would look at your face and say, yes, it was not good. It was wonderfully bad. But it is good that we met on that night of nights. If it happens again, let it not be different. Only this love, poor and rebellious, and the same coat with the rose pattern, in the same plain dress of all dresses. If it happens again, let it not be different. Let it be so. It will be sign after sign.
Well,
Thank you so much. That was really wonderful reading of it. This is a very difficult poem, which basically describes what we call really abusive relationship of a woman who is totally, who is abused by her lover to a degree. But she is so enamored. I mean, this is a problem that we know from real life, where a lot of abused women simply cannot leave their abuser. And in many cases, just like this woman is describing in the poem, they are actually looking forward for the abuse, because when they are being abused, that means that the man is paying some attention to them. So it's a very, very tough, very difficult poem, very heartbreaking, especially the third stanza that we did not read. I just want, before we listen to it, I just want to say that, again, we have some debate between critics. First of all, I find it absolutely horrific that this was a birthday present to his wife. Yes, a poem like this to give to your wife. Yes, it's like I'll come home with a whip and I give my wife a whip as a present or something. I mean, it is absolutely awful. But the question is really what critics are really asking is, who is confessing? And some of them are saying that Penn really understood his wife and her relationship. And this wife of his, she stayed with him and she stayed in the relationship. And especially when he got sick, she continued to take care of him until he passed away. Yes, with all this abusive relationship, with all the women that he had on the side. He had, for example, an affair with one of Israel's most renowned actresses called Hannah Robina, who was one of the founders of Habima Theater. And with her, he actually has a daughter, Ilana Robina, who you can find on YouTube singing that song. Yes, his own daughter singing that song. So one possibility is really that he really understood his wife, and he had the chutzpah to write such a poem about her. Yes, about her, but it did not change in any way, shape, or form his own behavior. The other possibility is that Penn actually is confessing himself. He recognizes himself what kind of a person he is, but he is too narcissist to be able to actually write it from his point of view. Mm-hmm. So he is writing it from his wife's point of view, while he is really telling us about himself. Yes, I recognize what kind of a person I am through this poem. I'm not going to decide which is the case. And again, I urge you to read the poem carefully, listen to the song, and maybe you come to other conclusions what to do with this kind of with this. As difficult and as heart-wrenching this poem is, it's probably Penn's best poem that he ever wrote, and it is absolutely magnificent. The Hebrew is absolutely magnificent. Okay, so let's hear the poem now, again sung by Yehudit Ravitz.
Yes, if you like, Gidon, I can actually show the poem and actually play an MP3 if you want people to see, or this.
Yes, that would be great.
Or I can show you the Ivrit if you prefer, whatever you like.
Oh, so show the English so people can see.
The English better.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. So let me do that. This is the Ivrit, the translation, and I'm coming right now. Vidui. There you go.
מעילי הפשוט ופנס על הגשר, ליל הסתיו ושפתיי הלכות מיני גשם, כך ראית אותי ראשונה התזכור, והיה לי ברור כמו שתיים ושתיים, כי אהיה בשבילך כמו לחם ומים, וכאל מים ולחם אליי תחזור. בעוניינו אמר בעבור אותך זעם, גם למוות אתה קיללתני לא פעם, וכתפיי הקרות רעדו משמחה, כי היה לי ברור כמו שתיים ושתיים, שיובילו אותך בגללי בנחושתיים, וגם אז לבבי לא יסור מעמך. כן היה זה לא טוב, היה רע לתפארת, אבל זכור איך נפגשנו בליל מלילות. אם יהיה זה שנית, אל יהיה זה אחרת, רק אותה ענייה וסוררת, באותו מילון עם אותו ציץ הברת, באותה סמלה פשוטה משמלות. אם יהיה זה שנית, אל יהיה זה אחרת, יהיה כך, כך יהיה אות באות.
Okay, sorry, we are running out of time, so we have to stop here. But again, if you send me an email, I will send you the poem, the whole poem, with links to also to his daughter singing it and so forth. So let me just end with one thing. Yes, we saw that there are many different ways how to read the poems, and there are many different ways how we can relate to Yom Kippur. So I just want to mention the last thing is that there are people who wish each other before Yom Kippur, may you have an easy fast. And I always find it very strange. If I really want it easy, then I'm not going to fast, and that's it, yes? So I like to say to people, may you have a meaningful fast. Whatever meaningful is for you, that is for you, but may it be a very meaningful day for each one of you. And I want to wish you all Shana Tova, and thank you very much.
And Shana Tova to you. What a fantastic experience. I only want to say, just as a musician, that of the Vidui, I wanted to bring back Sasha Argov, the musician that actually made this possible, and so many other songs. I hope everybody can go. Of course, of Russian origin. How could not be any different? But anyway, thank you, Gidon Minalev. It's a fantastic description of this poems, way beyond anything I dreamed. So thank you for sharing them with us and making the connection of Vidui and Selihot or Seliha in a completely different contemporary way. So תזכה לשנים רבות ונעימות. May you have a very pleasant and meaningful upcoming year. And for everyone, I can see, Gidon, that people are saying, thank you, Gidon, so interesting. Indeed it was. For everyone, as I wanted to say that I want to invite everybody to our Selihot services this upcoming Motzai Shabbat, the end of Shabbat at 8:30 in the evening. We're going to begin with Havdalah. We're going to have a great discussion, and then we're going to conclude with the Selihot service. And then, of course, on Sunday, we'll continue with the same Selihot series and programs all the way until Yom HaKippurim. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Thank you, Gidon, for spending the time with us and for spending the many hours I know it has taken you to actually put together this. Trust me, I know what it takes. To everybody tonight, Laila Tov, have a good evening. Continue being inspired by this beautiful music. I hope you all go back and listen to it 10 times. I have heard them a million times and it's still not enough. So, Laila Tov to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Laila Tov.